here's the kicker. They don't care what anyone else has going on or how unfair life has been to their neighbor. It's only about their own misfortune. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is April at Atypical Minds, and today I want to talk about the narcissist with a victim complex. This plays loosely with the last video and feeling a little bit fed up with just helping others and people who need help all the time. But I feel like that video played a little bit more on the aspects of helping that are within our control and related to our whys, why we might be helping so much or why we feel like we should be helping. This video is going to address a common personality type in many of our lives that is not so much in your control. You can't control another person. But this is a narcissist with a victim mentality. I hear that this isn't the most common type of narc, but honestly, this is the one that I feel like I've had more than my fair share of in life. I think contributing to that is being raised in a way that puts certain others before myself. So by way of my lack of boundaries and codependency, I attract similar types over and over again. I feel like this is a really common, you attract certain types of people based on your own personality, right? So first off, narcissist is an overused term to describe anyone that someone doesn't like. Gotcha, I agree. When I use narcissist, I am referring to the personality traits that usually come with the label, especially the self-centeredness and the lack of empathy for others. Those two things combined are truly problematic. I'm not using this in any way to diagnose someone, but to generalize certain behavior patterns. The narc with a victim complex is someone who is constantly whining and complaining about how unfair life is and how they need help and they need special treatment because life has been horrible to them and they don't care. Here's the kicker. They don't care what anyone else has going on or how unfair life has been to their neighbor. It's only about their own misfortune. The second part of the last statement in regards to the lack of empathy is the most important. There are people who do have a period of life that is rife with misfortune, but they still recognize that others suffer too. That doesn't entitle them to manipulate people with guilt and shame to acquire extra resources or emotional support. That is just out of proportion. These people who are not narcissists realize that they will have to do some work and they're going to have to take some responsibility and they're going to have to roll their sleeves up and make some moves to solve problems, as well as relying on others in a healthy way for support. There's nothing wrong with relying on others. That's what communities are about. That's what friendships are about, relationships are about. But the narc with the victim complex shows up at your door, expects to stay, eat your food, sleeps on your guest bed or your couch, and I mean sometimes they aren't above guilting you out of your own bed. They have back problems, the couch isn't comfortable. I know some of you relate to this. I actually know people this has happened to. But no real planning or moves being made on their own part to progress their own situation. There's always an excuse as to why they can't do this thing or that. And if maybe you would do this one thing, another favor that would actually help them, maybe they could figure out another scheme, help them get what they need. If you're helping this person right now in your life, you should just stop, go watch the last video. It's important that you understand why. Why would you continue to let a situation like this go on? What are your motives? It's really important to know this because it will be helpful for you to solve the problem. It will also be helpful for you to decide, maybe you want to let the situation continue just for a little bit while you gather your bearings, okay? It's okay to do that. Just because something's wrong doesn't mean you have to fix it right away, okay? You don't have to tell everybody about this realization or make any big moves. Matter of fact, I recommend that you don't really make any big moves until you have a well thought out plan and a little time has passed and you can think about it. The caveat here is unless you're in danger. If you're in danger, obviously, you need to seek out some other help and that needs to happen, more quickly than not. But if this keeps happening to you and you're feeling like you're being taken advantage of, you or your space, whether physical or emotional, is being preyed upon by someone who is not appreciating or compensating you in some way, then chances are that you are having some kind of emotional response to this somewhere in your life, and that it is having a major impact, a negative impact on you and your health, whether you realize it or not. So you might think it's not bothering you that much. No, make sure. So step one, figure out why you are allowing this. This is a question that should be asked and answered privately, or maybe with the help of a therapist, but this isn't something to talk to the narc about, for sure. Or flying monkeys, if you're familiar with that term, but this is for you. So start thinking about this for yourself. Take the time, figure out what you're getting out of it. For me, I know that because of the way I was raised, helping others at the expense of myself was looked so highly upon. Wow, good people really put themselves out there to help others. This is so not true. I was exhausting myself and my resources in such a way that I was neglecting things that were very important. Relationships, my health, my mental health, my schoolwork, good friendships, romantic relationships. Here's a side note. A lot of times if the narc sees you having success in an area of your life, they may actually start with the victim complex and they need you to help to derail you. Okay, these are manipulative people. Remember that. Do not forget that. Don't get caught up in their stuff. Always remember that. So if good people aren't allowing themselves to be trampled on, what are good people doing? What are they doing? Good people take care of themselves and also take time to help others in ways that are actually helpful. Okay. Letting someone take advantage of you does not help them in the long term. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is insanity. And so why don't we consider making a small change? So the next step would be to start thinking out some ways to get yourself out of the middle of this mess. I think that learning about boundaries and by setting a few boundaries is so helpful. That was one of the biggest changes in my life and in my journey, is learning about boundaries. Just read about it. And what are some small boundaries you could start to practice with? One of my favorites is what I consider to be a mental boundary. I love mental boundaries. Once again, because they're private. You don't have to tell anyone about them. But they provide this filter that allows you to change how the information, the manipulation from the narc impacts your psyche. So when I find a manipulative person, they're starting to guilt you, they're starting to shame you, they want you to help them, they want you to do something for them, but I don't want to, or I just can't. I often remind myself that my life has its own share of difficulties and problems, and that person's lack of concern or care for helping with any of my problems is exactly why I will not be helping this time. I said no, I feel no in my body, and helping them is not helping them based on history, and I'm not a bad person for not making myself responsible for other people's problems. And actually, it may be the opposite. I may be doing more harm than good. Okay, that's kind of an affirmation, a little pep talk that I might give myself, but that is me setting a boundary in my head. That's me setting a mental filter. All things must be filtered through those thoughts. If I just sit there with that knowledge and allow myself to feel this and understand this and sit with the guilt and the shame and whatever else weird emotions might come up from making that decision, like I'm not going to help them this time. And just knowing that those are just emotions that someone else is trying to manipulate for their own benefit. They're not real things. Guilt is not a real thing. Okay? And people can make you feel or try to make you feel guilt. Okay? But it is not in itself like a real, tangible thing. So if someone's trying to make you feel something for their benefit and not your own, then you stick with that boundary. You find a way not to help this time. Whether I'm direct and honest about it, I can't help for this reason, or I just can't right now, or I just find a really good excuse. Once again, this is a private thing. You're maybe not ready to confront someone or get yourself in a weird situation. You don't have to be. Okay? You don't have to feel like you have to be super honest at this stage of the game. You be honest with yourself, but you don't have to be super honest with them. And then here you have compassion for yourself, no matter what. Even if you do end up helping against your will, you fall into the trap again, at least you tried to figure out why you keep doing this, and you make that choice to know that helping others on repeat is not some arbitrary requirement of goodness. You start to allow yourself to know that you don't have to continue the pattern. You sit with that, get more comfortable with that. Things should start to change for you. Your mind should start to change. Your strength should start to change. Your ding, 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 ding. When the person comes around and starts their thing, that'll start to change and strengthen. You should eventually feel yourself feeling different about the situation over time, and then your responsibility to it as well. You should start making more and more boundaries. Oftentimes, if this person is truly a narc, at this point, they'll start to pull away a little bit. And sometimes this is to punish you by letting you see how unimportant you are. Or if they don't really have anyone else to do, like to pull away to go use, they might amp up their antics for a minute, and that's a little harder to deal with. Take your time, keep your boundaries, don't make big moves. If they don't have any other people in their life, see if you can't do them at least one more favor and find them some kind of service or group to use instead of you. There are services for people in need, and many of them will have boundaries inherent in the structure of the group, so they may be more prepared for people who are trying to abuse the system. As you are not a system, you are a single person. This is not your job. So doing that for them may distract them long enough for you to get yourself together, come up with another plan. Also, if they see you holding your boundaries, sometimes they might not want to put a lot of effort into getting back into your life. And a lot of times they'll just move on, because once they see that boundary coming up, once they see you not being as useful to them, they lose a little bit of interest. Also, you could, how about that family member or friend who also is in this scenario triangulation with you, and they're always trying to guilt you into helping this person and put the blame onto you. Send them to their house. Call their bluff. See how they respond to it. You might find that they change their tune. So I want to reiterate this. It's not meant for those situations or the people that have an unexpected hardship. By all means, in those instances, it's absolutely okay to make a sacrifice or two. Not too many. Don't put yourself out there. If you don't feel like helping, you don't have to help. But absolutely, in those situations, like, you don't have, help somebody get back on their feet. That's great. But this is for the repeat offenders, the ones who are constantly in need of you and your resources, and they go about it in ways that are harmful to you and your mental health. They manipulate you. That's the problem, really. That's all I have for today. Now it's your turn. Share your thoughts in the comments. Discuss, do you have any manipulative narcissists that use the victim complex in your life? Have you had any encounters with them? And that's all I have for today. See you again soon. Bye.